Weather will come, Ray. The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball.
Little roller up along first. Behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win. Now the 2-1.
Line drive to the base hit. Justice has scored the tying run. Green to the plate. And he is safe. Safe at the plate. The Braves go to the World Series.
Have reserved seats somewhere along one of the baselines that sat when they were children and cheered their heroes.
Gibson swings and a fly ball to deep right field. This is going to be a home run. Unbelievable!
A 3-run home run for Bucky Dent. The Yankees now lead by a score of 3-2.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mazeroski has hit a 1-0 pitch over the left field fence at Ford Field to win the 1960 World Series.
They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children, longing for the past.
The Pope arrived at Yankee Stadium. As one enthusiastic announcer put it, he is standing on second base.
Reggie Jackson. Long drive right field. It is goodbye. Big World Series. The Blue Jays are World Series champions as Joe Carter hits a 3-run home run.
Back and throw. There's a left back. It's going to be, I believe, the Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant.
The 0-1 pitch. A liner off Nagy's glove into center field. The Florida Marlins have won the World Series.
The memories will be so thick that I can brush them with my faces.
The 1-0 delivery to Fisk. He swings long drive left field. If it stays there, it's gone. Home run. The Red Sox win. And the series is
Lolich fires, ball is hit high in the air. This should be the series. Freehand waving everybody away in foul territory. Detroit wins.
Here's the pitch to Willie. There's a liner straight to Richardson. The ball game is over and the World Series is over. Willie McCovey hit it like a bullet. A line drive right.
Baseball to mark the time.
The Oakland A's take. I'll tell you what, we're having an earthquake.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Candlestick Park for Game 3 of the 1989 World Series.
It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again.
Frank Robinson, the right-hand batter.
Long drive to left field. Way back. This is it back. Home run.
Base hit loaded, 1 out. Pena in a jam. The Twins are going to win the World Series. The Twins have won it.
I see with 1 out. Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. It's a home run. And the
Willie Mays just brought this crowd to its feet with a catch, which must have been an optical illusion to a lot of people.
This field, this game, is a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again.
Broadcasted live.
There are balls coming from all over the place. Left field, center field, right field. See, this is the kind of thing, quite honestly, right now, that makes you want to see the Chicago Cubs team lose.
Now, are you just saying you want to have fun, or do you really want to have fun?
It'll be fun.
Will the next person that sees anybody throw anything onto this field, point them out, or get them out of here? You don't live in Cleveland. You live in Cincinnati.
You talking to me? You talking to me?
That is the farthest thing in the universe from the truth.
Hello, everyone, live. It's the Dan Scott Show. And right there is your host, Dan Scott.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the program. I am Dan Scott. Good to have you with us over the course of the next hour. We got a good one for you today that will include our regular Wednesday chat with Dave Glenn of ACCSports.com, which this will be the penultimate one for the current athletic year. You know, next week will be the last one, regularly scheduled anyway, until we get to August and football season. So we'll take advantage of getting Dave on and talking with him today and talk about a good day to be a Paladin as far as athletics went yesterday, among some other things. But first of all, how are you doing? It's been a week since we've been together. Hope that things are going well with you. If you're off to a good start today, we'll try not to mess it up. If you're not, maybe we can provide you with a little bit of a boost. And as always, the goal is to learn something we did not know by the time the show is done, and it always starts right here in this chair. In the last week that we have, since the last time we were together, it's been a very interesting week from a baseball standpoint where Furman is concerned. Last night, got a win, a much-needed victory up in Asheville, which we're going to talk about in just a moment. So we'll kind of break that one down and look ahead to the pre-Easter weekend series tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday at Western Carolina up in Cullowhee, and kind of set the stage for the last part of the season because we are rapidly coming down the home stretch. I think after yesterday, only 17 games remaining in the regular season for the Paladins, and right now sitting 10 games under 500 at 13-23. They're going to get things going. This will be the time, and we'll talk about some of that coming up in just a bit. We're also going to spend a little bit of time focusing on the women's golf program, which won its 5th consecutive Southern Conference championship down in Hilton Head yesterday. They'll be going to the NCAA tournament again under head coach Jeff Hull, and just continues to be a marvelous, marvelous story in the athletics department here at Furman, what that golf team is doing on a year-in and year-out basis. So we'll talk about them coming up a little bit as well. If we have some time, maybe get into a little bit of Major League Baseball and some of the other things that are going on. The NFL draft, obviously, is coming up very soon. So there's quite a bit to capture our attention if we have the opportunity to get in to all of it. The show is brought to you each and every day by our friends at Carolina Creative. Not just simple, but simply brilliant. They have jumped on board with us here. They have done my new website, thedanscottshow.com. They can do websites for you. They can do something as simple as designing a logo. They can do a lot more when it comes to branding and marketing and all that kind of exposure. Randy and his folks there are simply phenomenal at what they do. You look at their client list, and it's remarkable that I'm even on it, quite honestly. But you look at their client list and the people they work with, they are just tremendous at what they do, and we're very proud to be associated with them. That's Carolina Creative. You see their contact info in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. You're going to hear more about them as we go to our first commercial break here. And then when we come back, we're going to spend some time talking about Furman baseball and the women's golf team in the next segment before we get to Dave Glenn at 10:25. This is the Dan Scott Show, and we are just getting cranked up on a Wednesday, and we'll be back in just a moment. Hey, everybody, Dan Scott here, and I want to tell you about my technology partner, Carolina Creative Group. When my show needed a creative technology boost, I turned to Carolina Creative Group. My custom design website is going to take marketing as well as brand strategy and development to new levels. The search engine optimization means that my clients' ads will be seen by more people more often. And if I have any questions, Carolina Creative Group is just a phone call away. Friends, that is just the tip of the proverbial iceberg. You can find out all the ways that Carolina Creative Group can help your business by simply calling 864-250-2012. Again, that's 864-250-2012, or simply visit them online at carolinacreative.co. Carolina Creative Group, technology partner of the Dan Scott Show.
If you're looking for the perfect frame for that special photo or painting, Custom Corners Frame Shop in Seneca can deliver for you. Family owned for nearly 4 decades, Trevor and the folks at Custom Corners Frame Shop pride themselves on quality, presentation, and professionalism. They offer picture framing for every budget, and every job is custom. Custom Corners Frame Shop also sells work from local artists as well as locally themed gifts. For more information, visit them at 289 Market Street in Seneca. Call 864-882-7736 or find them on Facebook, Custom Corners Frame Shop in Seneca.
Imagine a university. A university where your passion for protecting local water sources is encouraged. And now, your work not only benefits your career, but the health of those in your community and around the world. This is Furman. This is the Furman Advantage.
Dan Scott here for the Atlanta Bread Company. What do I like about Atlanta Bread? Well, too much to mention in a short commercial, but here are a few things. Bread baked daily fresh on site, a tremendous selection of soup, sandwiches, and salads, seasonal special additions to the menu, delicious hot coffee, and a bevy of other drink options. And yeah, can't forget about the baked sweet goodies. Dine in or carry out, and when you have the Atlanta Bread Company app, you can order and pay online, then breeze past the lines to the pickup counter to get your food. Experience it for yourself. That's the Atlanta Bread Company, Cherrydale Point in Greenville.
When you go in search of a fence company, what's your criteria? Experience? Trust? A company that gets it right the first time and stands behind its work? Then your search is over. Faulkner Fence has been Greenville's fence company for more than 40 years. Ed Faulkner started the business, and now son Todd continues the tradition of excellence. So regardless of your fencing needs, commercial, industrial, or residential, trust the company that Greenville has trusted for over 4 decades. Faulkner Fence, 864-271-4626, or online at FaulknerFenceCompany.com.
Let me tell you something, Cowboy. This rookie can really bring the heat.
He's smoky and spicy with a Chipotle style all his own.
It's a new Montgomery Inn Chipotle barbecue sauce. Make it a part of your home team.
Available now at your neighborhood grocer or online at CincyFavorites.com.
1-1 the count on Roper. Pitch. And he lifts it in the air back into center field. On the run is Edwards. That's over his head. It is one hop and off the wall. Jogging home is Richards to make it a 3-2 Furman lead, and Roper in at second with his 8th double of the year and RBI number 16. And the Paladins have regained the lead here in the top of the 5th inning. All right, welcome back to the show as we get things rolling here on this Wednesday edition. That double by Dax Roper, Chad's his dad, by the way, but by Dax Roper provided what proved to be the winning run for the Paladins in the 5th inning. They won that game by a score of 3-2. It's just the 3rd time in 20 games this season that Furman has won a game in which they scored 5 runs or less. They're 3-17, and I believe the 2-year total now is something like 6-42 or 7-42. Low-scoring games have not been Furman's friend of late, so it's a good sign when they can win a game like that, even though they had, again, just multiple opportunities to blow the thing open as the game went on, and specifically thinking about the 7th inning when they loaded the bases with nobody out and yet failed to score again. A soft fly out, too shallow to bring a run in, a strikeout, and a fly ball for the 3rd out. And the Paladins are 0 for their last 11 with the bases loaded. You go back to Saturday's first game of the doubleheader, an 8-7 loss to ETSU. They were 0 for 7 in a single game with the bases loaded. And now it's a streak that's 0 for 11. Still, they won the game. The pitching was outstanding, and it was 5 different pitchers combining on a day that they planned to do that. 2 innings for Jordan Beetson, 2 for Nick Verbeck, 2 for Hank Nichols, 2 for the freshman Mason Kenny, and then Eric Taylor closed it out in the 9th inning to get his first save of the season, and the Paladins got the win by that 3-2 margin. And look, I say it's good to win that kind of game because, in a great sense, especially early in a conference tournament, those are the kind of games that you may have to win to advance. Later in a conference tournament, maybe you're going to see the scoring be a little higher because pitching begins to dwindle a little bit. But early in a postseason, those are the kind of games that oftentimes you run into. So getting some momentum heading in that direction now would be very, very good. Now, selfishly, and I think everybody on that bench would tell you the same thing, they would have loved to have put up about a 5 spot in that 7th inning and blown that baby wide open and won it comfortably. But they did not do it. And it continues to be an ongoing issue. Getting a runner in from third base with less than 2 outs until they did it twice in that 5th inning yesterday, it had been something that was heading south in a hurry coming into the game yesterday. They had only got that runner in from third base with less than 2 outs just 47% of the time this season. And obviously that is not nearly often enough. The other thing, and Hunter Reed brought this up to me in a text note yesterday, the number of strikeouts, the average times this team strikes out is 9 per game. You go back 3 years to that 2017 team that came within an eyelash of winning the whole thing and going to the NCAA tournament in Harker's first year. They struck out 6 times on average per game. So you start to do the math, that's 3 more balls put in play per game. Now for 36 games, you do that multiplication and then apply, just at a very minimum, the 262 team batting average the Paladins have to those extra opportunities, and how many more runs would this team generate? So, putting the ball in play, manufacturing runs continues to be an issue. Look, nobody knows it more than them. Nobody works on it harder than them. And you can see, you can see when they come to the plate in those situations, bases loaded and nobody out yesterday, you could see it. You could see the tightening of the muscles, and if it were a wooden bat, almost grinding the bat handle into sawdust, and just pressing, trying so hard to get the big hit, the bases clearing hit, trying to swing, sometimes over swinging and being too aggressive and not nearly selective pitch wise, because they're trying to do something big to help the team. When in that situation, a fly ball gets in a run, a well-placed base hit is going to bring in 2. Sometimes it's more mental than it is physical, and relaxing and understanding in that situation that the pitcher is the one who is under pressure, not you. That can make all the difference in the world. And those are the things they're working on. Did not happen yesterday, but the good news is they still found a way to win the game. And that's the most important thing. And a close game, and a 1-run game, and a low-scoring game, all things which this team has not been doing on a consistent basis by far this year or even a year ago. So to see that happen now, you hope that's a good sign, and you hope that carries over to this series coming up in Cullowhee tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday. I still believe, and I watch this team day in and day out, and I've seen the struggles, and I've seen the failures, and I've seen the flashes of hope that have been out there, and I think the flashes of hope have been bright enough to lead one to believe that this team's best baseball potentially is still ahead of it. Got a lot of work to do, a lot of things to shore up. There's no question about it. But you look at it and you can see that the potential is there. And quite honestly, let's look over the last 3 or 4 weeks, maybe even 5 weeks, with a hiccup now and then. This team has wasted at times some pretty darn good pitching. The pitching numbers, if you have paid attention, the staff ERA is steadily decreasing. And obviously that's a good sign. That means that they are getting outs with more regularity, walking fewer hitters, and giving this team chances to win games. Now, again, there have been, as I said, the hiccups here and there, but you look at this team over the last month or so, and you look at where the team ERA was, which was up around 6.6 at one juncture, and now is almost a full run lower than that. It was 5.8 going into the game yesterday and only allowed 2 earned runs in 9 innings, so it went down even further. That's another reason that you have to feel pretty good about the chances of this team still having time to make something good happen. And we all know that regardless of the past failures in the regular season and the struggles, that the only team that's going to get into the NCAA tournament out of the Southern Conference is the team that gets the automatic bid, the team that wins the SoCon tournament at Fluor Field coming up in the 3rd full week of May. So with that being the goal, with that being still out there, I think, and again, I'm the eternal optimist, and at the same time being a realist. I don't, and people who listen to the broadcast, they know this. Parents may not like it sometimes, but I believe that you have to tell the full story. And when a player is in a big time slump, or the team is not doing this or not doing that, I don't hide from it. I don't sugarcoat it. I tell the story. But to me, that makes the other moments that much more special. Like going back to Friday night when Dax Roper is in the throes of an 0 for 17 slump, right? If I'm doing my job right as a play-by-play broadcaster and telling the entirety of the story, I can't leave that out. I simply can't. But then when that same young man who is in that 0 for 17 slump delivers the game-winning base hit in the bottom of the 12th inning after another young man who has had serious difficulties on the mound this year, Nick Verbeck, got out of a nearly impossible situation in the top of the 12th inning to keep the game tied, well, that's what makes those moments that much more special. So I believe, as both a realist and an optimist, that while there's a lot of work to be done and a lot of holes that have to be plugged, the bottom line is there's still enough potential there, I think, for this team to do well come the SoCon tournament. It's just a matter of finding that elusive consistency. They've not been able to put it all together quite this year. They get another chance starting tomorrow in Cullowhee, a 6 o'clock start on the Thursday game, Easter Sunday, of course, so no game on Sunday. It's Thursday, Friday, Saturday this week, 6 o'clock tomorrow, 5 o'clock on Friday, and 2 o'clock on Saturday. That, of course, is weather permitting, understanding there may be some rain issues that we'll be dodging again. Stop me if you've heard that one before. But anyway, 5:45 the pregame tomorrow on all of our usual outlets, and we're looking forward to getting to a place, A, that I love going to Cullowhee, and B, that has been good to this team in the past. So we'll see what happens. Now, let's talk a little bit of women's golf. Congratulations to Jeff Hull's women's golf team. Their 5th consecutive Southern Conference championship. You see there on that graphic on the screen that they finished the SoCon tournament at minus 27, and you look at, or I'm sorry, at plus 27, but you look and see the end result, a 5th consecutive championship and a 5th consecutive NCAA tournament berth, and for Jeff Hull's team, it is another fantastic job turned in. Just some of the particulars from the tournament. Furman placed 4 players among the top 10, including senior Haley Hartford and her +3, which is tied for 2nd. Junior Natalie Srinivasan, who was +4, finished 4th in the tournament. So those two have been kind of the leaders of this team all season continue to play very well. NCAA Regionals will be held May 6th through the 8th. The tournament field will be announced live on the Golf Channel beginning at 5:30 p.m. on Wednesday, April the 24th. That is 1 week from today. So congratulations again to the 5-time SoCon champions, 5 times in a row SoCon champion women's golf club and head coach Jeff Hull. All right, when we come back, Dave Glenn will join us. We'll go around the Atlantic Coast Conference and see what else we can get into. This is the Dan Scott Show, and we're back in just a moment.
For a child battling a critical illness, a wish come true can be a turning point. One song, one dance, one game, one moment changes everything. Make-A-Wish needs your support to grant more life-changing wishes. Visit Make-A-Wish online now. Together, we can transform lives, one wish at a time.
Hall's Chop House in downtown Greenville is the Greenville Steakhouse. Why? Well, it starts with the Allen Brothers Prime Steaks out of Chicago. The rest of the menu falls into place there. But it really goes beyond that. It's their level of service, their commitment to that service. The place is packed every night, and yet Billy and his staff have a way of making you and your table feel like you're the most important table in the place. They have lunch on Fridays and Saturdays, brunch on Sundays, live music every time the doors are open. The Greenville Steakhouse is Hall's Chop House, Main Street, downtown. Tell them you heard about them on the Dan Scott Show.
Mayhem is everywhere.
I'm a fight in the stadium parking lot. One of us was rooting for the home team. The other was also rooting for the home team, but misheard the first one. Them's fighting words. Now we're working this out all over your car. And this could last a while because we're evenly matched. We're both big. We're both better at punching stuff than doing puzzles. We both think Italy's in South America. We both peaked somewhere between 8th grade and the second time we took 8th grade. Oh, and while you were gone, we've both been rammed repeatedly by the other into your car. Our already scarred faces will heal, but if you've got cut rate insurance, you could be living with these dents. So get Allstate, where agents help keep you protected from mayhem. Like me.
Are you in good hands?
In Easley, it's Ray Williams, Allstate, 864-859-7504.
Looking for a great car, but your credit needs work? Premier Automotivations is a professional referral service motivated to help you drive a car you love while rebuilding your credit. Late model cars of all kinds. Premier Automotivations can get you on the road and your credit on the road to recovery today. Serving all of upstate South Carolina, it's Premier Automotivations. Call Sherry today at 864-722-3785 or email cricketgravely@gmail.com.
Go the Distance Performance Coaching offers individualized coaching for distance runners of all ability levels, beginner to seasoned runner, and exists to help you achieve your running goals. All training plans are custom built, tailor-made just for you based on your experience, current fitness level, injury history, and goals. You're going to receive expert coaching from Hall of Fame runner Brock Bailey, and Coach Brock is ready to help you go the distance. You can find out everything you need to know about Go the Distance Performance Coaching and Brock Bailey at the website gocoach.run. Gocoach.run. That's Go the Distance Performance Coaching. Hi, welcome back to the show. I am Dan Scott. Good to have you with us as we welcome you back to play on this Wednesday edition of the show. And if it's Wednesday, you know what that means. We get a chance to visit with our good friend Dave Glenn, ACCSports.com, the syndicated, he said, David Glenn show throughout the state of North Carolina. Also contributes to theathletic.com. And this would be our penultimate visit of the athletic year, at least regularly scheduled visit, with one more Wednesday to go in the month of April. David, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Dan. You must have done well on the verbal portion of the SAT because penultimate is a heck of a word. You probably got points for that.
Yeah, it is, and I think I use it every year that it's your next to last visit because that's a journalism word, meaning usually used it's the next to last paragraph in a story. It's the penultimate paragraph. So, in any event, how are you, man?
I'm doing great. I mean, it's kind of time to exhale to a degree, right? From last August through UVA cutting down the nets last Monday night, it's kind of been rapid fire for anybody who loves to cover college sports. So we still have other things, of course, early NBA entries and spring football and transfers in and transfers out, some coaching carousel stuff, but there is absolutely no doubt that my world slows down at least a little bit from mid-April to mid-August before it cranks back up again for at breakneck speed.
Well, let me ask you this because I think those of us who have been doing this for a long time, we all face those stretches or seasons in our lives when we kind of wonder sometimes why we keep doing what we do and as much of what we do. And you and I are roughly the same age. I just turned 52 years old 3 days ago. So we're
Happy birthday.
We're in the same ballpark. You've been doing this for, 30 years, a little more than 30 years covering the ACC, and you don't seem to be losing any of your zeal or zest for what you do. How are you able to maintain that energy? What is it about this job that keeps you so pumped up all the time?
I think it's a combination of people and changing subject matter. You know, our jobs are so different every day. My show is live noon to 3, and aside from, of course, pleasant visits like this with you, every morning is dedicated to preparing that day's content. And the variety is just invigorating in some days. And when it comes to even covering college sports more specifically, there's a built-in variety there, right? You have changing coaches. You have the very natural changing of the roster. And last year's star quarterback, or maybe the guy who was the great point guard for the last 2 or 3 years, nowadays they don't stay quite as long, the very best players. But there's a natural turnover in college sports, the way there's not as much of it, at least, even with free agency in professional sports. So the radio gives me more person-to-person connection than, say, my writing career did, and I know you can identify with that. And that's energizing and invigorating to me. Sometimes you deal with some crazy people and some unpleasant people, but far more often you're dealing with people who share your passion, and you learn from them and they learn from you. And in our case, as you know, we're not just covering college sports in air quotes. One more thing that invigorates me is that 3 of the last 6 college football national champions have come from the league I cover most intensely, the ACC. And 9 of the last 19 now, Dan. I mean, think about that. 9 of 19 NCAA men's basketball titles have been won by current members of the ACC. They weren't all members at the time, but 9 out of 19 in this 15-school construction we know as ACC basketball. So it's a combination of all those things. And, you know, we've mentioned it many times. When you get paid to write and talk about sports, in a world where some people wake up, you know, without a roof over their head or without something to eat, you know, and yet we're not only living much better by those standards, but holy cow, we're getting paid to write and talk about sports. It doesn't mean it's perfect. It doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean it's always simple. But, gosh, relatively speaking, I tend to try to count my blessings every day.
I think I've told you before that my buddy and broadcast partner Tom Van Hoy a number of years ago, it's the first time I'd ever heard anybody use the statement for our profession, but it is so appropriate. He always says that if life is a department store, we work in the toy department. And I think that there's a lot to that. Sometimes when I get aggravated about things and the job, you know, has its moments like every other job does, I always take a step back, Dave, and remind myself, you know, I'm getting paid to watch a ball game.
I'm with you on that. And what I like beyond that is that even though it's sort of quote-unquote only sports, or even though it's only the toy department, man, there's life lessons everywhere you look.
Yep.
whether it's Dabo Swinney's charisma and faith and leadership, and taking Clemson, to a plateau that it had never been. I mean, I know they won the national title in football in the early 80s with Danny Ford, but this is the glory days.
Mm-hmm.
And that is an amazing person who's just filled with life lessons beyond football. And Tony Bennett at UVA, it's funny that they have become friends from different sports, but as ACC colleagues to a degree, they were sharing texts as the Virginia Cavaliers were on their way to the first NCAA title in that sport for that school. They're both men that you can learn from way beyond bouncing basketballs and thrown and caught footballs. I mean, they're just that charismatic, that interesting. And and some people roll their eyes at this when it comes to college sports, or even some folks say it about youth sports. When maybe you or I advocate for the life lessons they're in, I know some skeptics out there that just don't get it. They don't understand it. Well, I played sports, a lot of sports as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
and I've covered them all since then. And there's no doubt in my mind that you can actually learn not just as much in sports, but maybe more than in most other endeavors. If you're the Virginia Cavaliers and you were the embarrassment of the college basketball world 13 months ago because you became the very first 1 seed ever to lose to a 16 seed, and you address that, and you don't run from the questions, and you don't point fingers at each other, and you deal with the adversity, and you don't even ask the media to dodge the question. You just confront it, and you own it, and you use it as fuel. And here you are, almost 13 months later, you're the one team standing cutting down the nets. I mean, Disney might laugh that script out of the building if you brought it to them a year ago. And yet it actually happened.
Yeah.
So that's one more thing that gets me excited about what we get to write and talk about on a daily basis.
Dave Glenn, ACCSports.com. The David Glenn Show joins us here on the program today. Speaking of Tony Bennett, as you and I were chatting during the commercial right before this segment started, he's now having to deal with something that really Virginia hasn't dealt with en masse before. And like you said, it's almost welcome to the big time. They win the national championship, and now a week or so later, their top 3 players have all declared for the NBA draft. So he is seeing how the other half lives, so to speak.
Yeah, that's well put. I mean, that's the reality today. And some folks wonder how long it's been that way. I remind people that 13 years ago, Billy Donovan had a Florida Gators basketball team where, for NBA fans, you'll recognize all these names. Al Horford, Corey Brewer, and Joakim Noah were the Gators' 3 stars. And in 2006, they were sophomores. And, of course, the Gators won the national championship with Billy Donovan as their coach and with those 3 sophomores as their stars. Well, through the 2019 mindset, most of us probably would say, well, they all left early, right? I mean, they had done everything they had done. They were halfway. They were 2 years into their college career. They cut down the nets. They led the Gators to the national title. You're going to tell me that they all left, right? Well, no, they all stayed. And remember, there are only a couple of examples since the early 1970s when the UCLA dynasty ended. There are only 2 examples of back-to-back national champions. One, of course, was Duke under Coach K in the early 90s when, remember, Christian Laettner and Bobby Hurley and Grant Hill, they all won it all in 91, but they all stayed. Laettner stayed for his senior year. Hurley stayed for his junior year. Grant Hill was a freshman in 91 and then a sophomore when they won it all in 1992. Well, that's a long time ago. But the Florida example from 2006, I mean, that's only 12 and 13 years ago. All 3 of those guys, who at this point are like 14-year NBA veterans, they all stayed for their junior year. And the only recent example of back-to-back NCAA champions are the 2006 and 2007 Florida Gators of Billy Donovan, where it was the same 3 guys, Al Horford, Corey Brewer, and Joakim Noah, leading the way. They all became top 10 NBA draft picks. They did leave after that junior year, after the second of the back-to-back NCAA titles. But here Tony Bennett is, 12 years later, and he loses 4 of his 5 starters. Jack Salt was a senior. He started most games during the regular season. And then Ty Jerome and Kyle Guy, Dan, great college players, but they weren't really on the NBA radar at the beginning of this season. DeAndre Hunter was on their radar as just a longer, leaner athlete.
Mm-hmm.
The NBA tends to gravitate toward the bigger guys more than the guards when it comes to, demanding early entry. So here he is, yes, celebrating the first NCAA title in school history, but also figuring out, wow, I knew I was probably going to lose somebody, but I just lost 4 of my 5 starters. And it'll be a great test to see if UVA, which has been very good for 6 years now, this is not a flash in the pan. This is a 6-year run that culminated with that NCAA title a week and a half ago. We'll see if they can stay on the ACC's top tier, even if Tony Bennett is dealing with something that guys like Mike Krzyzewski and Roy Williams have been dealing with for quite a while.
Continue to visit with Dave Glenn of the David Glenn Show, and ACCSports.com also contributes to TheAthletic.com. Worst kept secret in all of college basketball, Zion Williamson has declared for the NBA draft, and if he's not the overall number 1 pick in said draft, I think we have a bigger news story than the Russian collusion investigation.
Yeah, that's going to be, and how about this for some numbers? The way NBA contracts work for rookies, only your first 2 years are guaranteed. But for Zion, as the probable number 1 pick, you're talking $20 million guaranteed over 2 years. And unless you get cut, which is unlikely, again, the first 2 years are guaranteed no matter what. Injury, you get cut, you get waived, something horrible happens. His 5-year total is going to be more than $50 million as the number 1 overall pick. And he's also in the process with his family and representatives of interviewing 6 at least different shoe and apparel companies. And the early estimates are right now, I did some research, Dan, LeBron James in 2003, remember he went straight from high school to the NBA, signed what is the greatest rookie shoe deal in the history of the NBA. He signed with Nike for 7 years and a guaranteed $87 million. To this moment, 16 years later, that's still the greatest rookie shoe deal in the history of the NBA. The only guy who came close was Kevin Durant, also Nike, 7 years, about $60 million or so. Now, both of those guys later re-signed with Nike at even bigger dollars, but the bottom line is it's rare to get that much as a brand new player in the NBA. And some of the estimates now believe that Zion Williamson is going to get, the $100 million deal. And that would put him above even LeBron, even KD, and everybody else in the history of the NBA. It would make Zion Williamson the owner of the greatest rookie shoe deal in the history of that league. And, obviously that's paying you more than twice as much as your first 5 years of NBA salary would be paying you. So that's kind of Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan territory where you're making even more money off the court than you are on it. And it's just amazing for a guy who's only 1 year into his college career to be able to do and say such things.
And given the fact that you had the Nike embarrassment over the blown shoe, which led to his injury and caused him to miss a number of games in the second half of the season. Is there any way in the world Nike can allow itself to be outbid by anybody? I mean, to me, the numbers you're talking about potentially could be escalated even higher simply because of that, because Nike can't stand the possibility of being embarrassed like that.
No, you clearly have a marketing background because there's some optics going on there, right? For the reasons you just outlined, this is even a bigger deal than almost anybody else that comes down the pike. And for those who don't know, and I only know this because I just did a little research on it, Nike/Jordan brand, the Michael Jordan brand within Nike is sort of a different branch of the same tree. When you combine current NBA players who wear Nike and those who are wearing something in the Jordan brand category, I think it's something in the neighborhood of 70% of NBA players. So you're talking about a company, Nike, that dominates already, and now you have this elite, charismatic, efficient on the court, entertaining on the court, but also an interesting young man and a kind of a natural pitch man off the court. You can't let him get away. But Adidas is going to be bidding. Zion actually has some Adidas in his background. Earlier in his career, he's even been photographed like wearing Adidas, and I think one of his AAU teams was Adidas. Under Armour has Steph Curry and Joel Embiid, and they're trying to make a splash. New Balance has Kawhi Leonard, and they're trying to make a splash. Puma was absent from the NBA world for a long time, but they now have 10 NBA players, and they're trying to get back in the game. And Klay Thompson of the Golden State Warriors signed with a Chinese company called Anta, and they, of course, would love, and they have tons of money. They'd love to have, a figure like Zion Williamson representing their brand. So I agree with your bottom line with Nike sort of being the team to beat. But Nike's going to have to come up with some big cash because some of these less prominent companies, see in some ways an even greater upside if they can get the number 1 overall draft pick. That's going to get a lot of attention for their company.
Yeah, no kidding. So as we look across the rest of the conference landscape, I mean, you look at the headlines for virtually every team, not every team, but virtually every team. We've mentioned Virginia Tech, Duke, North Carolina, NC State, Wake Forest, Florida State, Georgia Tech. I mean, right on down the line, everybody has players who are going to, at a minimum, test the NCAA or the NBA waters. Get out, not sign with an agent, see what the feeling is, maybe come back to school, maybe not, but there are a boatload of players all across this league who are in that process right now.
Yeah, it's incredible. I looked up, I keep a running all-ACC list so that when the vote comes at the end of the year, I'm kind of ready to pull the trigger. And of the 15 guys who made my all-ACC team, there's a chance that 0 returned. There were 3 seniors, so of course, Marquise Reed of Clemson and Luke May of Carolina, Camp Johnson of the Tar Heels. They're moving on the old-fashioned way. But the other 12 guys were underclassmen, and I think every one of them has either said flat out, I'm leaving, like the 3 Virginia guys, or has said, I'm testing the waters, like a handful have. Under the new rules, you are allowed to have an agent advising you. You're even allowed to remain eligible under the new rules if you were invited to the NBA Combine but did not get drafted. You can retain eligibility. So a lot of these little wrinkles have changed over the years. But the bottom line is, I mean, when Duke's freshman point guard Trey Jones said he's staying for his sophomore year. And remember, his 3 freshman teammates have all said they're not just testing the waters; they're gone. Zion and R.J. Barrett and Cam Reddish. Trey Jones and I think John Mooney of Notre Dame, the big guy. I haven't seen him officially say he's testing the waters, but I was told that he probably would just do it just to get the NBA scouts' feedback. I think Mooney's leaning towards staying with the Irish. So that would be 1 returning All-ACC player, assuming he stays for his senior year. Trey Jones wasn't All-ACC, but he was a pretty good player, so there's another quality guy back. Louisville has 3 guys testing the waters, and Chris Mack, he just had a good first year with the Cardinals. If all 3 of those guys stayed, he might have the preseason favorite in the Atlantic Coast Conference in his second year. Now, if all 3 leave, it's a much different picture, right? So at least Tony Bennett at UVA and Mike Krzyzewski at Duke know who's staying and who's leaving at this point. And as I try to project forward, believe it or not, I think both the Blue Devils and the Cavaliers are going to be on that top tier in the preseason projections, even though in both cases, they're losing an awful lot of talent to the next level.
What's the deadline for having to say I'm either in or out?
Oh, I don't have that in front of me. The early entry deadline is this Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. And then you do have, it's a pretty long time. So we won't have all of these answers for more than a month. There is a deadline, and there's tricky rules. If you're not invited to the Combine, but you're not drafted, and you do not retain your amateur status. That's really the NCAA trying to say, hey, if you're not invited to the Combine, you probably are just done in college basketball.
Yeah, and Dave, what's interesting about this is, for instance, at a small or mid-major school like Furman, over the last handful of years, the Paladins have signed what have turned out to be some pretty important players for this program in the spring, and bringing them onto campus that fall, late signees, so to speak. But you don't see that, obviously, so much at the elite level because all the elite players are already gone somewhere. So it presents some roster difficulties and roster issues for a coach if three guys are taken off on him or whatever the case may be, and there's really nobody out there they can replace him with at a moment's notice.
You're right. It's something like 80+% of the top high school prospects sign in the early period, so they're not available. We have seen a little bit of a change, Dan, where some elite prospects, for example, there's a guy named Matthew Hurt, top 10 player from the state of Minnesota. There's a guy named Cole Anthony who plays point guard, Oak Hill Academy, one of the famous prep schools. They have been of the mindset that I don't want to sign somewhere until I know who's staying and who's going.
Right.
Cole Anthony happens to be a point guard. Now, if Kobe White of the UNC Tar Heels had a good freshman season but not a great one, maybe he might have stayed. Nasir Little of the Tar Heels, the day he arrived, they knew he was probably going to be a one-and-done player. Kobe White, it wasn't that clear. So Cole Anthony has said, hey, I'm not sitting behind another NBA prospect like Kobe White. So the Tar Heels would have been off his list if Kobe had decided to stay for his sophomore season. Well, Kobe has decided to leave, and that means Roy Williams desperately needs a point guard, and Cole Anthony has had the Tar Heels on his list, just like Matthew Hurt of Minnesota has had Duke on his list. And there's just a small wave of elite prospects who say, I know the offers are going to be there. I don't feel any pressure to sign somewhere early. And I can make a more educated decision in April or even May once I see what the roster looks like. Because these guys who view themselves as potential one-done players, they have to show up somewhere where they can be, in a starting role and enjoy that platform for a relatively brief period. They don't want to be coming off the bench for 18 minutes a game, right? So you're certainly right about the bigger picture. There are just some exceptions with late decision makers. And the other roster tweaks, as you know, grad transfers being immediately eligible.
Yeah.
The guys who don't have to sit out a year because they already have their degree from their previous school, that's becoming a bigger deal all the time. And it's at least one more avenue for these coaches to sort of plug the hole if they have, one or more unexpected departures at this time of year.
Dave, as always, great stuff, man. How can people catch up with more of what you do on a daily basis?
Grand Central Station, ACCsports.com. We have a lot of recruiting there, a lot of basketball leftovers, a lot of glancing forward to football season and basketball season, spring football reviews, of course, early NFL and NBA draft type stuff. It's all there. We'll get into a little baseball, too, which I know makes you excited, Dan, at ACCsports.com. And on the other side, The Athletic Carolina and TheAthletic.com is where my revisiting my writing roots material that does not end up at ACCsports.com. I do redirect some of that to The Athletic Carolina.
Sounds good. Dave, as always, appreciate it. Look forward to next week, my friend.
Thank you, Dan. Always good, bud. See you.
That is Dave Glenn of ACCsports.com and The David Glenn Show. All right, we will step out for our final break, come back and put a wrap on this thing. Here's a little trivia for you. Can you name the Major League Baseball Hall of Famer who made his debut, Major League debut, on this day in 1951? We'll answer that question when we come back in just a moment. Dan Scott Show returns right after this. When you're looking for the home of a lifetime, you need a realtor you can trust. With more than 27 years experience selling real estate, Gel Sartain is the choice to help the discriminating buyer find the home of their dreams. Licensed in both South Carolina and Georgia, Gel specializes in homes on beautiful lakes Hartwell and Kiwi, as well as the surrounding areas, and has a wealth of experience working with people with technical backgrounds. Now is the time to buy, sell, and invest in real estate in the Clemson-Seneca area. Let Gail help you realize that dream today. Call her at 404-317-3171. That's Gail Sartain, a member of the National Association of Realtors.
We're all trying to find our way, forge a path, blaze a trail. The work is hard and the work is personal, but you can't do it alone. At Furman, we're committed to giving you an advantage, the Furman Advantage. We know that graduates who are emotionally supported and who have deep learning experiences in college are 3 times as likely to be engaged at work and thriving in life. At Furman, all students are guaranteed 4 years of rigorous classroom education integrated with high-impact research, internships, study away, and a community of support every step of the way. This is the Furman Advantage.
Hey everybody, Dan Scott. You know, I've been telling you for some time now that I switched to protection of my home and family to Security Complete. I can tell you that I've been ecstatic with the results. Locally owned with more than 40 years experience in the industry, Security Complete uses nothing but the latest technology, which equals low overhead, which equals greater savings to the customer. Fully automated systems with monitoring rates much lower than the competition. Security Complete gives you all this and does not require a contract of any length. Find out more by calling 864-546-0630 or find them on Facebook and Twitter. Security Complete, my first line of defense. Make them yours today.
Let me tell you something, Cowboy. This rookie can really bring the heat.
He's smoky and spicy with a Chipotle style all his own.
It's a new Montgomery Inn Chipotle barbecue sauce. Make it a part of your home team.
Available now at your neighborhood grocer or online at cincyfavorites.com.
Hey everybody, Dan Scott here, and I want to tell you about my technology partner, Carolina Creative Group. When my show needed a creative technology boost, I turned to Carolina Creative Group. My custom design website is going to take marketing as well as brand strategy and development to new levels. The search engine optimization means that my clients' ads will be seen by more people more often. And if I have any questions, Carolina Creative Group is just a phone call away. Friends, that is just the tip of the proverbial iceberg. You can find out all the ways that Carolina Creative Group can help your business by simply calling 864-250-2012. Again, that's 864-250-2012, or simply visit them online at carolinacreative.co. Carolina Creative Group, technology partner of the Dan Scott Show. All right, that is pretty much going to put a wrap on things for today. Our thanks to Dave Glenn for joining us as always. I'm getting ready to put that interview up on my social media, so if you missed any of it or you'd like to hear any of it again, you can go back and grab it. And if you did not see yesterday, also on my social media, the podcast interview I did with Billy Davis, first time we've talked with Billy in quite a while, and we talked with the former Clemson two-sport star and retired Secret Service agent about mental toughness and adversity and overcoming adversity and thinking about Tiger Woods winning the Masters 14 years apart and everything he's been through. And Billy, not a big Tiger Woods fan, but acknowledges the fact that there is some mental toughness, obviously, that goes into overcoming the last decade, and for a guy who did a lot of training, and especially he gave a great example of some special ops training that he did in the U.S. Secret Service, and just the mental the mental fortitude that you have to be able to complete that. It's really good stuff. So that's out on my social media. You can find that at let's see, what is, oh yeah, it's Dan Scott Show on Twitter, my personal Facebook page. And if you go to SoundCloud and search Dan Scott Show, you'll find a list of everything that we've done there recently. But that David Glenn interview will be added to it here in just a moment. So we are on the road tomorrow for baseball in Cullowhee, North Carolina. Get to hang out with my buddy Daniel Hooker for 3 days and 2 nights and see if the Paladins can win this year's battle for purple supremacy like they've done in the last couple of years. And it was last weekend that 2 years ago in the 2017 season that the Furman season turned around in Colway. The Paladins had lost 9 in a row and 17 out of 20 heading into a 3-game series up there. Jason Costa, I think it was the 4th inning, hit a big 3-run home run that put Furman on top 3-0. They ended up with a 6-5 win, and the streak was over. Furman would win its next 8 in a row and would close the season winning 20 of their final 28 games and missed by 1 game of making it to the NCAA tournament. And I've just now been informed by Brett Harker that tomorrow's game, originally at 6 o'clock, has been moved up an hour to 5 p.m. because there's some rain coming in. And so that means that our pregame show will be at 4:45 there in Colowee. So just make that little programming change for yourselves. Listen, have yourself a great rest of your week. We'll be back with you again probably Wednesday of next week and see if we can continue to update you on all the things that are going on here at Furman and beyond, and hope that your day will be a great one moving forward the rest of this Wednesday. Until tomorrow night in Colowee, for everybody here, which is just me, I'm Dan Scott saying, go out, make a positive difference in somebody else's life. God bless you. So long, everybody.